Over the last few years, the price of almost everything you buy has simply become a moving target. This acceleration triggered immediate pushback. Federal lawmakers are currently launching probes into major grocery chains, citing false advertising and deceptive practices over their fluctuating prices. In 2026, Maryland and New Jersey went further. They passed outright statutory bans on what they call surveillance pricing and placed severe restrictions on the rollout of electronic shelf labels. These legislative efforts target a specific outcome, but they often blur the lines between two different mathematical behaviors. High-frequency, time-based dynamic pricing, where a price changes based on inventory, is being treated the same as highly targeted, identity-based personalized pricing. These algorithms act as a multiplier for existing market structures, dictated by the data pipelines and consumer psychology already in place. To understand the modern retail economy, we have to map the exact boundary between theoretical economic efficiency and real-world legal friction. For most of modern history, physical retail relied on a static baseline. A store set a single, uniform price for a good, and every buyer paid that exact amount. In microeconomics, breaking that uniformity to charge different prices is evaluated by its effect on total economic welfare. The theoretical ideal is perfect first-degree price discrimination, a system that completely eliminates deadweight loss by transferring 100% of the economic surplus to the producer. To achieve that total extraction, a seller has to perfectly identify each individual buyer's exact maximum willingness to pay. This matrix categorizes pricing by frequency and targeting. The left shows dynamic pricing, changing rapidly but uniform to all. The bottom right is static, targeted pricing, like senior discounts. The legislative focus is the top right, personalized dynamic pricing, where high frequency meets individual targeting. We can use this taxonomy to analyze the use of electronic shelf labels. Despite the state moratoriums, there is zero verified commercial deployment of facial recognition personalized pricing in United States grocery stores. Electronic shelf labels are operational tools used to manage perishable inventory and synchronize offline shelves with broad online dynamic pricing. Current laws target a technology in physical retail that largely does not exist, while missing the digital environments where algorithmic pricing is actually transforming the market. The real battleground for algorithmic pricing lies in federal antitrust law, specifically the Sherman Act's prohibitions against price fixing. Right now, there is a definitive split in the courts. The Ninth Circuit recently ruled that competitors independently licensing the same pricing software does not automatically constitute illegal price fixing. However, the Third Circuit revived antitrust claims in cases of hub-and-spoke cartels. Antitrust liability currently hinges on the mechanism of pooling non-public competitor data. This spectrum charts the evolution of algorithmic collusion, asking, if humans never communicate, can AI form a cartel on its own? Historically, algorithms were just messengers executing human intent. Now, at the extreme right, we reach the digital eye, fully autonomous reinforcement learners. Recent economic simulations by researchers like Calvano demonstrate exactly how these systems operate. They tested Q-learning algorithms in simulated markets to observe what pricing strategies they would adopt. Without any human instruction or prior knowledge of the environment, these algorithms reliably discover a reward-punishment strategy. If a competitor deviates and lowers their price, the algorithm initiates a rapid, localized price war to punish them, forcing the market back into a coordinated state of monopoly pricing. The economics discipline is split on whether this happens outside a laboratory. Research by Asker and Pakes argues that algorithmic collusion depends on how the software's internal learning parameters are designed. The behavior of these models shifts based on the use of asynchronous or synchronous updating protocols. Algorithms built with asynchronous protocols, meaning they only learn from the direct returns of actions they actually took, reliably lead to monopoly pricing. Conversely, synchronous models that continuously calculate economic counterfactuals result in highly competitive, consumer-friendly pricing. Collusive behavior is a function of how the software's learning parameters are engineered. If B2B intermediaries possess the tracking telemetry to calculate exactly what you are willing to pay, why isn't true personalized pricing ubiquitous across all of e-commerce? For differential pricing to extract revenue, 3 rigid structural conditions must exist: market power, information, and arbitrage prevention. The information pillar requires a massive data supply chain, cross-site identity resolution, behavioral telemetry, and machine learning estimation to accurately calculate a buyer's maximum willingness to pay. Even with perfect data, arbitrage prevention dictates where the strategy survives. This is why differential pricing works in non-transferable services, like airline tickets and software licenses, but repeatedly fails in physical commodities, where low-price buyers can simply resell the physical goods to high-price buyers. Beyond these structural requirements lies a non-technical firewall, behavioral economics, and raw consumer outrage. In 1986, Daniel Kahneman documented the psychological boundaries of market fairness with the dual entitlement principle. The principle dictates that consumers believe a firm is entitled to a reference profit. If a retailer raises prices strictly to cover external supply chain inflation, the public generally accepts it as fair. Buyers also believe they are entitled to a reference price. If an algorithm spikes the cost of a product simply to exploit a sudden, localized demand shock, buyers view it as an inherent violation of fairness. This psychological friction creates an acceptance gradient that governs real-world corporate strategy. If a highly targeted algorithmic price is framed as an active, opt-in discount, like a massive college financial aid package, society celebrates the access it creates. If that exact same mathematical targeting is framed as a passive penalty, silently imposed based on your private browser history, it triggers immediate legislative bans. Procedural framing and transparency govern the legal and cultural acceptance of algorithmic pricing. As of today, the landscape of differential pricing operates in a dual reality. High-frequency dynamic pricing is permanently normalized in digital native sectors like travel and rideshare, while personalized pricing in physical stores remains deeply contested. Covert, true first-degree personalization is effectively blocked. Between the measurement error of noisy data, severe antitrust risks, and the threat of immediate consumer revolt, widespread deployment is commercially unviable. National retailers are already reacting to the incoming patchwork of state-level surveillance. They are largely abandoning the idea of using electronic shelf labels for generalized personalized pricing. Instead, retailers are shifting their personalized pricing modules directly into proprietary smartphone loyalty applications. By moving the price change to an app and framing the algorithmic targeting as an exclusive member discount, retailers legally bypass state consumer protection statutes because the buyer actively consented to the data collection. Algorithms will likely continue to condition consumers to voluntarily trade their private data in exchange for the very targeted discounts that state laws attempted to prohibit.